Hello, everyone. My name is Gabriel Smith, Program Associate for the Center for Economic Wellbeing at the National Council on Aging. I'm joined today by Assistant Director of Health Coverage and Benefits, Ryan Ramsey, and this is the first video in a two-part series focusing on the Medicare Plan Finder tool. So when people consider enrolling in a Medicare Advantage plan or a prescription drug plan, one of their major tools that they can use is the Medicare Plan Finder, which is found on Medicare.gov. This tool allows people to compare the plans available in their zip code, including being able to enter prescription drug information to get a rough idea of what their costs will be for the year. Now, Ryan is here to walk us through a few examples on how to use the Medicare Plan Finder tool. Ryan, thanks for being here, and I'll pass it off to you.
All right. Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate this. And today we're going to walk through the Plan Finder and just how we use the Plan Finder, how we can collect the information necessary to perform a plan comparison, and then how to read the results of that Plan Finder. I'll be walking through there, and Gabe has volunteered very graciously to play one of our test beneficiaries in this scenario. So if you navigate to Medicare.gov, this is a public website where you can find all the information related to your Medicare needs. When you pull it up, you'll notice that the homepage has some information about how to get started with Medicare. And currently, because it is the open enrollment period that extends from October the 15th to December the 7th, you'll find that there's a button located right on the homepage that says Find Plans. Outside of this time period, you can also find that information right up here on the top right under Health and Drug Plans. If you click on that, you'll find a section that says Find and Compare, and you can see Find and Compare Health and Drug Plans there. Either place that you select these, you'll be taken to the next screen, which is going to look like this. And it's going to say Explore your Medicare coverage options. And of course, right now, because it is the open enrollment period, we'll have information stating that you can pick your plan for 2026. Now, what we're going to do first is we're going to go through a comparison of a standalone prescription drug plan. So that is a plan that is for people who are on original Medicare, and this is going to be a plan that is only going to cover your prescription needs at this time. So what I'm going to do now is look right down here and collect the information that is necessary. If you have an account with Medicare.gov, you can select Log In and log in. If you do not have an account and wish to create an account, this is also where you can go to create one. What you'll need to have is you will need to have an email address that is necessary at this point, starting in September of 2025. Medicare.gov has made that a requirement, is that you must enter an email address for multi-factor authentication. So if you do not have one, that will prohibit you from being able to create an account. Now, because Gabe and I are doing a test subject right now, we're not going to go through this route. We're going to go through the general search. So what we're going to need first is, Gabe, what is the zip code for Jane Doe here?
The zip code is 30303.
30303. All right. And when we're gonna make sure that we're looking at coverage for 2026, you'll see that you can also still look at coverage for 2025, but because we're doing a plan comparison for the annual enrollment period, we're going to be looking for next year. So we're going to keep that marked on 2026. Now, when I hit continue, it's going to ask me what type of plan am I looking for. Like we discussed earlier, we're going to do this one on a standalone prescription drug plan. So I'm going to select that middle option there, and I'm going to go down and select Find Plans. Now it's going to ask me, do you get help with your Medicare health or drug costs at this time? And you are given the option to select if you have Medicaid, if you have supplemental security income, if you have a Medicare savings program, or if you have extra help. Now, Gabe, does Jane Doe have any extra assistance at this time?
No, none is listed.
All right. So we're going to select no. I do not get any help from any of these programs. Now, it's going to ask us, do you want to see if your drug costs when you compare plans? We are going to want to include all the drugs that Jane Doe takes in this scenario to make sure that we are finding the plan that meets her needs the best and costs her the least overall for the year. So we're going to select yes, and then next. Gabe, what is the first drug that she takes?
She takes a drug, and I'm just going to spell it Lisino Pril.
All
Pril.
right. So she is taking lisinopril, and we're going to select add drug. Now, what is the dosage that she takes?
20 milligrams.
20 milligrams. So you'll see that what was auto-populated was 10 milligrams. So we're going to select 20 milligrams. What is the quantity that she receives?
30.
30. So you'll see that was auto-populated at 45. We're going to change that to 30. And is she getting that every month?
It's listed as daily.
All right. She's taking one daily. Thank you. All right. And once we enter that, it takes us back to the confirmed drug list, and we're able to add another drug. Now, if you do go in and somebody says, hey, actually, I take a different form of this, then you're able to remove that drug, edit that drug at any later time. But we're going to go ahead and continue on with her drug list. What is her second drug?
Her second drug is, and I'm just going to spell it again,
Sure.
Atorvastatin.
All right. Torvastatin here. She's going to take what on her dosage?
40 milligrams.
All right. Just as expected. And her quantity, what is she getting every month?
30 as well. I believe that's listed.
Yeah. And taking that daily?
Yep.
All right. And her next drug, please.
Metformin.
Metformin. Great. All right. And you'll see on this one that metformin has a couple of different options for how they are going to be receiving that. Typically, unless you see metformin combined with one of these other options, we're going to be looking at the metformin hydrochloride as the option that we're going to be looking for. Now, Gabe, what is the dosage that she takes?
Now, this is twice daily.
Okay, so she's taking this twice daily. Is she getting 60 in a given month?
Yes.
All right, so she is taking 2 per day. And what is the dosage on that?
500 milligrams.
All right, so it is 500 milligrams. Fantastic. Now we're going to add the next one. What is her next drug?
Albuterol inhaler.
All right, albuterol. All right. We're going to add that drug, that albuterol sulfate right there. And that is a inhaler. That was what I was looking for if when I was trying to look through these options. What is her strength on that inhaler?
90
90.
mcg. Yep.
So there we go. We see that 90 base mcg. So that is the correct solution we're looking for. Does she get, how many of those inhalers does she get a month?
It's listed as needed.
Okay. So in this situation, that's a great thing to bring up, is that somebody may have a prescription that they take as needed, something like an inhaler. At that time, it's always a good idea to ask them about how often do you use that, or how often do you get that refilled. Just for the purposes of this comparison, let's assume that she is getting one of those inhalers per month. Typically, what I have seen throughout the course of my counseling is that somebody is getting those emergency inhalers at every other month or even quarterly. But let's assume that she is getting one of these per month, just so we keep things as uniform as possible for the purposes of this demonstration. So we've got one every month, And Gabe, what is her final drug here?
Let me spell it out for you. It's
Okay,
Levothyroxine.
that's that levothyroxine there. And we're going to add that drug. And what is her dosage?
50
50.
mcg.
Perfect. And is she getting 30 of those per month?
Yes, sir.
Taking one daily, I assume.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Great. I'm going to add that. And just for the purposes of our demonstration, I do want to just show somebody. We have ended the end of her prescription list, but I'm going to go ahead and enter a brand name medication just for the purposes of demonstration. And I'm going to click add drug. You'll see if you enter in a brand name drug that it will give you the option. Do you want to keep that a brand name medication or you want to add generic? That is something that is very important when we are doing these comparisons is if you are entering a medication that they may have as a brand name medication to say, are you taking that brand name or not? Now, Gabe gave me that albuterol sulfate. I knew that was a brand name medication, but I also knew that that was not going to show up as having a genetic alternative. So I did not ask that at the time. That is just from my experience. But I did want to demonstrate that if you have that, you will see if I entered in Xanax, it gave me alprazolam as the option for my generic. And I would have that option of entering that in place of a Xanax. And you'll find that some people will call their medication by that brand name rather than that generic name because it has that name recognition. So in the case where you enter something, it will prompt you, hey, do you want to add that generic? Do you want to add that brand name? But I'm going to exit that out and go back to my drug list because that was not included on Jane Doe's list here. And now that we've finalized this list, what we're going to do is go down right below where we've been clicking add another drug and click done adding drugs. Now, Gabe, what is Jane Doe's preferred pharmacies?
She has listed CVS as her preferred
Okay,
pharmacy.
CVS. So what I'm going to do, you can of course go up here and search as well, but I'm going to look just right here and find the most local CVS. Normally, I would also give the address and make sure that I'm adding the correct CVS that they want. But since we are going outside of the network that either Gabe or I live in, we're going to just assume that the most local CVS is her preferred pharmacy. Does she have a secondary pharmacy, Gabe?
She has listed Walgreens as her secondary
All
pharmacy.
right, Walgreens. So I do not see Walgreens on the first page. I'm able to scroll down and navigate to the second page. And there we go. We'll find a Walgreens pharmacy right there on the third page. Now, it does give you the option to include up to 5 separate pharmacies, but you'll notice that the first option on each one of these pages, when I navigate through them, is the mail order pharmacy. So that's always an important question to ask. Now, Gabe, does Miss Jane Doe have any interest in mail order pharmacy?
Actually, it is listed that she prefers mail order for her maintenance drugs if the cost is lower.
Wonderful. So we'll include mail order pharmacy on there as well. I think it's always a good general idea to ask those people anyway, are you interested in mail order pharmacy? Just for everybody's reference, mail order has a lot of pros and cons. You know, for instance, it comes directly to your house. You're not responsible for having to go out to the pharmacy to get that filled. However, if you do live within areas where maybe you face extreme weather or live up in the mountains or something like that, where the weather could affect travel in some way, know that there are things that could, affect the delivery of those medications and could leave you in a situation where you would be waiting to get that prescription filled. I always do like to point out that there is always the opportunity that somebody could, of course, snatch that parcel as well, if it is left someplace like your front doorstep or anything like that. So, um, we will do this comparison with all of these pharmacies and try to find out which one of these is going to be the most cost effective. So now that I've entered all of these pharmacies, and Gabe, she did not have any other pharmacy listed, correct?
That is correct.
Wonderful. We're going to go to continue to view plans. And you'll notice right up top, like I demonstrated earlier, we're viewing 2026 plans. If we want to look at 2025, all we'd have to click here is show me 2025, and it would switch to this current year's plans. But we're going to stay on 2026. You'll see that you can filter by a few things right up top, but also right over here to the right, it has sort plans by, and you'll see, a drop down. It'll say lowest yearly drug deductible, lowest drug plus premium cost, and then lowest monthly premium. It auto starts with lowest drug plus premium cost. You can view that as overall lowest cost for the year. This is with all my premiums added, plus my out of pocket for my prescriptions. These are going to go from least expensive down to most expensive as we travel down this list. And you'll see it starts out here with WellCare Value Script, and we can scroll all the way down and look at all of these various plans all the way to the bottom here, and it's showing all 10 out of 10 plans here. I will stop here just for the moment at the bottom to show that it has the total drug plus premium cost at 2,440. Just to point that out, because when we go up top here, we're going to start with the least expensive and select that one. So you have the opportunity to compare these plans side by side. I typically compare the top three because that is the amount that they allow you to compare. So I go from the top all the way down to the next two. Gabe, Miss Jane Doe did not say she had any sort of preference for any sort of company for insurance or anything like that, correct?
No, the only thing that she has listed in addition is that all of her prescriptions should be filled monthly except for metformin.
Okay,
But
so if she has a desire to take metformin twice daily, she may need 60 tablets. Okay, she is taking those twice daily, so she is getting that on a monthly basis. So because she did not divulge any preference in insurance company, I don't have to go through here and include that. If somebody did say, well, I am with this company and would like to stay with this company, I would generally go and look at the top two plans, regardless of whatever insurance company that is, and then also take into account that they have a preference. They want to look at that particular insurance company's plan and would include that as well. So just for example, WellCare and Humana are the top two. If they said, hey, I'm really interested in HealthSpring, for example, then I would have skipped, down and found HealthSpring. But in this situation, we're just going to compare the top three. And once I've selected all of those, added to compare, I go right down here and hit compare. Now it is going to lay out side by side all three of these plans, the names of them, what their monthly premium is. You'll notice that there's an option to enroll and to get plan details. It gives you the star ratings. These are off a multitude of different factors, which we'll get into here shortly. The total monthly premium, the total yearly deductible, if that plan includes a deductible. It will tell you how many of your prescription drugs are covered under that plan. And then it will give you the total drug plus premium cost for 2026. So what is the bottom line? How much is this going to cost me out of pocket in total with premiums and copays for this plan? If we look here, just a really quick cursory glance tells us that the WellCare Value Script is going to be the most cost effective or the least expensive throughout the year. You'll see that each one of these are in the $730 range, where the Humana and the WellCare right here are in the 970 to 990 range right here. You will see that there is the exception that mail order does look like overall it's going to be the most cost effective regardless of which of these plans that they go with, and would ultimately be the most cost effective overall for the year, even on the most cost effective plan. So let's say that that person said, well, can you give me more details about this plan? That sounds great that I'm going to pay the least on this plan. Could I have a little bit more detail? Then I would want to go right here and select plan details. It's going to take away that comparison and just focus in on one plan. We can still go back to the comparison, but we're going to zoom in on this plan right now. You can see WellCare value script, the information about how to get to that plan's website, numbers that they can call if they're not a member. If they are a member, the number that they can call as well. And still that option to enroll or print. All of this material exists right up here at the top right. But how to read this is that you'll see that what you'll pay, total monthly premium, what the retail pharmacy costs are throughout the year, and then the number of drugs that are paid at the mail order pharmacy. Here's how much it's going to cost as well. We'll look at the overview. That's going to have the same information and again provide the total that the deductible will be. And then we'll go right here for the drug coverage. And you'll see right here that it's got all that information that we chose on these drugs. What are they taking? What's the quantity that they get? How often do they receive that? You'll see the metformin is the exception there. She's taking 2 a day as opposed to 1. And so she's getting 60 per month as opposed to 30, like she pointed out. And earlier, you'll see the pharmacies. They will tell you if they're in network, out of network, or if they're preferred in network. A preferred in network pharmacy is going to provide you with the best deals on those medications. So if you see in network not preferred, that still means that you get coverage at that. But obviously, if you go see a pharmacy that is in network and preferred, that is generally going to be where you'll see the most cost savings on those copays for your medications as well. And as we scroll down here, it will notify us which one of these drugs is the one that's actually not covered. And it's not all that surprising that that albuterol sulfate inhaler is not the one that's covered. That's generally going to be something that we would see across the course, is that one of those ready inhalers are things that plans may struggle to cover or may choose not to cover entirely. But every other portion of that is covered. So what we're going to do is we're going to look down here lower and see what our total drug plus premium costs are going to look like for the year. So our total drug plus premium cost for 2026 is going to be $737.28 at Walgreens, $737.28 at CVS, $734 at mail order pharmacy. And you will not, in fact, meet your deductible in 2026. And that may confuse people because they would see that their deductible is $615 on this plan. And if this is not covered, then they see that this $737.28 is still there. But because this is not covered, this does not factor into the deductible. So therefore, because the rest of these are covered fully, they're not going to meet that $615 deductible for the year. If we scroll down, it'll give you an estimated monthly total drug cost as well. So under these, you'll see that that is $61.44 under all of these. If you look at the mail order pharmacy, mail order comes on a 90-day supply, so that would be $183.57 every 3 months on that mail order pharmacy that you'd see right there. Now, one of the things that we will notice when we go and look at our estimated drug costs here is that you saw that the total that this medication was $737. That does not necessarily mean that's going to be what you're going to pay. So you'll see that the retail cost for that medication is going to be $61.44. This is actually what the annual total of that drug is going to be right there. So the retail cost of that is going to be $61.44, and you'll notice $61.44 is what you're paying every month. That's because this is what is the driving cost for all of your medications. Because that's not covered, the rest are. You're really only paying for this medication out of pocket all year. But because that drug is not covered, that's not counting towards your deductible. And you'll see this is at Walgreens right there, that you'll be able to go and look during all coverage phases. Because you're not going to meet your deductible, you would never have to look at these other two columns on here. You just look at this first one because you never meet your deductible. And like we mentioned, the mail order pharmacy is the least expensive, so you can look and see, okay, this $183.57 is coming just from the albuterol sulfate as well. You can also view more drug coverage here as well, and it will give you information a little bit further regarding quantity limits, regarding any sort of prior authorization, co-insurances if they exist, right down there. However, if you're not necessarily interested in all of that, you don't have to open that and explain that. However, I do want to point out some of the star ratings right here, and you'll see that this plan is rated 3.5 stars right there. I want to show there's a few factors that contribute to a star rating. First and foremost, the customer service experience, member complaints and changes in the drug plan's performance, member experience in the drug plan, drug safety and accuracy of drug pricing, customer service. Obviously, the higher the stars, the better the service. Member complaints and changes in the drug plan's performance. The higher the stars means the less complaints. Member experience, obviously, the higher those stars, the better the experience. And then the higher the stars, the better the savings and accuracy of drug pricing as well. You can look into those, and they will also get a little bit more granular with the specifics of how they're rating those as well. But what I would do is look at that and explain to Jane Doe that, this is the plan that's going to meet your needs the best. Do you understand what this plan would cost you? And then, of course, because there was that interest in mail order pharmacy, to explain, here's what can happen with that mail order. You're going to receive that on a 90-day supply. It is technically, yes, going to be more cost effective for you. However, you're only going to save about $3 overall throughout the year in total. So is it more valuable to you to select that mail order? But because Gabe mentioned that her preference is in fact mail order, she might say, yes, I wanted mail order anyway, knowing that it is in fact the most cost-effective option for me regardless, would allow her to render that decision for what she wants to do. One of the things that I did not touch on as we were going through this as well is the Medicare prescription payment plan option as well. When you're navigating through here, you will find that you can select information regarding your Medicare prescription payment plan. Normally, in this section right here, it does not exist right now, solely because they are not going to have copays that are covered under this plan, that they would not have anything to break up throughout the year in terms of that payment plan. Because this is not covered, it would not be applicable for that Medicare prescription payment plan information. So that's why you're not seeing that information as it exists right there. So after I've explained that to Jane Doe, I give her the option of, is this the plan that you want to go with? She can certainly make that decision herself. She can navigate this public website as well. If she says, I just want to take some time, I want to think about this and make my decision, you can print out all of this information and get that sent to her. Be mindful, it is going to be a number of pages. I generally think if you're going to send, the comparison of all three plans, you're going to be looking at somewhere between, 15 to 30 different printed pages potentially to send somebody. But if you're only sending them specifics on one plan, it could be as little as 1 to 5 pages. However, if she does want assistance with enrolling, you can offer her assistance right there, clicking that enroll button, which will take you to being able to provide information. She would have to provide her Medicare number, her zip code, a lot of further information that we did not have to provide on this general search. But that is how you can enter, how you can find the most cost-effective plan, and how you can explain these prescription drug plan comparisons on a very basic stage on the Medicare Plan Finder. Gabe, is there any questions that maybe I have not covered that would be helpful?
I actually had a few questions for you, if you don't mind.
Please.
The first question had to do with the star ratings that you spoke about earlier. I saw somewhere at three stars, somewhere at 3.5. How much weight when making a decision on a plan should a star rating, like, should you put into a star rating?
Sure. And I will tell you that 3 to 3.5, maybe even up to 4 stars are generally the area where we see most plans sort of falling at this point. If a plan gets 2 stars or less for more than 3 years consistently, then that plan gets sort of frozen, and they are not allowed to take on new consumers until they rectify those issues. But those star ratings are sort of my final look into a plan. I always have looked at these in terms of how I'm counseling as my final factors in making a decision. I'm always looking at what are the plans that cover the most amount of their medications. Then it's how do they cost them effectively, or how do they cover them effectively? And then once we have established, hey, these are the plans that I'm going to be able to afford and I'm interested in, then we're going to go and look at the star ratings and see, what is my experience going to look like on this plan. Uh, the factors that most people are really interested in are going to be the customer service, the member experience. That's going to be what's the member's rating of this drug plan? What's my rating of the drug plan I'm on? And how do I rank the ease of me being able to get my prescriptions filled? That's always really good. Drug safety and accuracy are kind of reserved to the people who are taking these particular medications like diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, um, and don't always have sort of the same weight that they carry to most consumers as some of the other ones. I do have people who have looked at the number of complaints and the number of members choosing to leave the plan. If people are getting a lot of complaints about that plan and they feel like this plan might be, I might be in danger of potentially getting into a plan that covers my medications really well, but the difficulty of getting them to provide those to me is hard. I would see that more with people who are taking high tier specialty drugs, or drugs that have a lot of rules around them, like prior authorization, where maybe I need to take a few of these other lower or different medications in order to get approval to take one of these specialty tier medications. But that's how I would sort of rank the importance of looking at stars ratings, is make that your final approval of do I want to take this plan before you make your decision.
Oh, okay. Thanks for that. My next question, just to be Just to clarify for those individuals watching, brand versus generic, when we were entering in the drugs on that screen, if I specifically wanted a brand name drug, would I have to just specify that for each one of the drugs that were entered, or will the tool assume that that you would want the generic brand? How does Just for clarification, how would that work out?
Sure. I tell you what we'll do, Gabe, is that I'll show on here that very same thing. So if I go back to plan comparison, and I will say, when you're on Medicare.gov, the easiest way to navigate is to look right below Medicare.gov and navigate with these arrows. If you go up and do the back arrow on your uh, internet application, it can sometimes throw things out of whack. So just navigate with these right here up at the top left below Medicare.gov. Let's go back to drugs and pharmacies, and let's add another drug. And I showed you Xanax earlier, which the generic for that is alprazolam. When I hit that drug, it's going to give me just that generic. So if they say, well, I take the brand name of alprazolam, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to notice that, and going to make sure that you want to look up what the brand name of that drug is. So you will have to specify, hey, I take the brand name of this medication. However, if you want it the opposite way, you enter in the brand name, it's going to pop up the generic. So it is important that yes, if somebody is taking a brand name, that they mention that. However, in most scenarios, when someone is taking a brand name medication, they will name that brand name. When they're taking a generic, they give you that generic name. So I would not be overly worried of if somebody is providing you a list of medications that you have to ask them, do you take a brand name version of that? Uh, Typically, it goes the opposite way. If they are taking a generic, they give you the generic. If they're taking a brand name or a generic of a brand name, they would give you either that generic name, or they would give you the brand name and say, I take the generic version of that.
Got it. Okay, glad to hear. And then last question, just of all of your experience in using the tool, what are some of the pros and cons that you've found in working with this?
Oh, that's a great question, Gabe. Thank you. One of the pros and cons of this, I always do want to let people know these are still estimates of prices. So do not be shocked if there is a slight difference in some of these pricings. I've never had the experience of that being large differences in pricings. It may be a few dollars here and there, but these plans do have the option of changing their formularies, which are the list of medications that they cover, in any time throughout the year. So it is important that if you are receiving information from your plan, that you're checking that. And I also do like to point out to people as well that it is important when we're doing comparisons of these, that if you're taking a medication and you are not sure about the consistency that you take that, like we talked about that albuterol inhaler, just in case, for the purposes of your question, if that was a covered medication and you were saying, I just take it as needed. So sometimes I fill it within a month, sometimes I fill it within 3 months. That when you're doing a comparison, err towards the using it more for your figures. So if this was covered and you say, well, I really fill it, most of the time every other month, but sometimes I need it once a month, then I would say, hey, well, let's just run that comparison looking at that once a month just to see what's the maximum that you could pay. You don't want to underestimate, especially with a drug that you're not taking consistently. So the comparison spits out what you give it. So it is sometimes important to sort of strategize, the scenario to give the person the most accurate or the most costly scenario rather than assume that everything goes perfect throughout their year. One of the other things that is really good too is that I always have the question that comes up. Well, what if my drugs change throughout the year, or what if I get prescribed something else throughout the year? That is a absolutely valid concern. But one of the great things that happens is once you're on one of these plans, you can go to your doctor. And if your doctor says, I want to prescribe you, let's just say a cholesterol medication, you can take him your formulary and say, okay, just make sure that whatever you prescribe me is on my formulary. So whatever variation of cholesterol medication you're going to give me, make sure my plan covers that. Really good way to sort of take your health, your prescriptions in your own hands as well.
All right. Well, those were all the questions that I had. Any last words before we conclude?
So, just for anybody who is signing up for any of these plans, know that it will give you some options about how people want to receive those. If they want large print materials, if they want prefer electronic, but once somebody makes that decision and enrolls in that and that becomes effective, it typically takes about 3 weeks before they receive their information from that plan. So definitely keep and hold on to those submission pages with the confirmation of that, and make sure that people understand that it could be as much as 4 weeks before they'll see any of those materials. But that does not mean that they are not without coverage when that plan is supposed to start. In our case, with the annual enrollment period, that's January the 1st. Even if you don't have your card, you would still carry that coverage. But the earlier that you make that decision and buy yourself enough time to where you have plenty of time between now and January the 1st to receive all of your information, the better you are.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. This concludes our presentation, and we thank you for joining us.